Welcome, everyone, to the Solutioneers Podcast. I am your host, Rebecca, and I'm so thrilled to have one of our FMO Media team leads, Danielle, on our podcast episode today. Danielle, you've been with us over 2 years now, although it feels like you've been with us since the beginning, and I'm so excited for you to be able to share your insight and what you've learned and how you've grown along the way, too. So let's dive in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to us, and what you love maybe about your role and your work at FMO.
Well, thank you for the lovely introduction. Yes, I have been with FMO for almost 2.5 years, and I do feel like I've been, with the company for quite some time. I just mainly because everything has really grown and changed, obviously within social media. I feel like there's always shifts that we need to make, things that should take priority on social media. Just over the years, it's just wild to kind of look back to see what worked then that would never work now. That in itself, I think, is what makes it feel like I've definitely been here longer than the 2.5 year mark. But I've loved every second of it, and I love the things that I have learned within the company. Prior to that, I got my foot in the door of the marketing realm of social media. Then I got into an agency prior, and that's when I definitely had my eyes open to the world of marketing agencies and how things work and all the things that go into it. And it's not just posting and calling it a day, which I think a lot of people think is what it is.
That's a great point. I love that you mentioned the ever-evolving landscape of social media, right? And we've talked internally, I've shared with clients too, how you really can't be an expert in social media because it's constantly evolving and changing every single day. So we have to be experts in how to adapt to it, right? We can still be experts in digital marketing, but you can't be an expert in something that changes on the daily and you have no control over it, especially, right? So the fact that you are agile and flexible and constantly challenging yourself to grow and to learn, I think is one of the reasons why you started out as an account manager and then graduated up to becoming a team lead and helping to lead others, manage a team, and help make sure that clients have their strategy built out in a way that aligns with them. So all of that said, are there examples that you can think of right now that have been maybe small or large examples of trying to figure out a solution when things do change for a social media strategy or for a client's content strategy in order to navigate those changes and help them grow along the way?
Yes and yes. I definitely can. I dove deep into quarterly reports. So I feel like those definitely help kind of showcase what works, what doesn't work. And when something doesn't work, it's not necessarily at the fault of a certain person or a certain thing. It could be just a shift in what people want to see. That in itself right there is a great way of looking at something that used to work. Their performance was great in the last quarter, but oh, look at that. It's not working anymore. Let's do a shift. So I think that in itself is more of like the broad answer. It's not one specific client, but it's like all encompassing is seeing those numbers shifting with something that did work 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. And now look at the direction of what is working now.
And speaking of direction, we always want to help support our clients in the direction of their goals. And one of the things that I've heard you talk about in the past is starting with why and helping understand the connection between the why and the goal and what we're doing to help get clients to their ultimate business goals. Maybe it's a business goal for the year or beyond. How do you navigate that with clients, and how do you navigate that as a team too?
Well, expressing to a client, hey, we're going to shift things around. Hey, we're going to mix things up a bit. I think it's important to express, like you just said, the why, because they're not going to understand, well, why are we changing things around? It's been working so well, or why are we shifting things into this direction? Everything has been great. It is important to say, hey, I want us to try, this and this and that, because I feel as though it's going to help with better views, better engagement, better reach, better just eyes on your account. Like people who see your account, people who see those videos that come up on their Discover or the For You pages, it's important for them to get the attention by the content, but also to keep their attention. So I think that The why is definitely, hey, I think this could work better for your content if you're a little bit more educational based or a little bit more entertainment based. This could work better than this. That's something, again, that could have worked 3 months ago. But let's do a shift. Let's just trial and error. And I think it's that in life, you just have to kind of trial and error. If you're not sure if it's going to work, jump off that ledge, see if it does. If it doesn't, hope you have a trampoline.
Yeah. And I think that's the fun of marketing too, is the experimentation, right? And we can have a good understanding of what works, but there's also that room to, like you're saying, trial, error, test, and see what new things we can come up with too, which is really great. And at the same time, we still need to be aligned with the client's core purpose for being and their goals. So how do you keep a team aligned and working towards those client goals?
Internal huddles are always really great. So just kind of brainstorming sessions, strategy shifts, things like that will definitely help. When I say internal huddles, it's to kind of go over that. So let's say I had a call with the client. I'm bringing some things to the table for them. They're on board to try it. So then I'm going to give them a couple like ideas right off the bat, but then I want to have an internal huddle to see the whole team, what we can do to, beef up their content, give them ideas and topics of self-reported and also recordings on film shoots and things like that. And I think that it's important to include the team so they do feel as though they have a hand in it, because you never know if team member A has like maybe 5 ideas, but team member B had that extra cup of coffee that day and has 50 ideas. So you really don't know. So that's why it's really important. Huddle it up. Be like, the client is on board. They are excited. I gave them these ideas, but let's kind of brainstorm more. And you should always bring to the table more ideas, because again, you won't really know if the client is on board for certain things, especially if it is a little bit more of a shift from what they're used to. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't hurt. But I think bringing it in, getting ideas from everybody, and then also bringing it to the client so then they can kind of go over it and say like, you know what, love this, love this, love this, not a fan of this. So then they're also included. So it's like a whole all hands on deck situation.
It sounds like the almost perfect mix of collaboration too, right? Because not only are you getting buy-in from the team and the project that they're working on for the client, in this case, content and social media marketing, but you're also getting buy-in from the client too, to make sure that they're aligned with the new ideas and understand the direction that we're still headed in, which seems really important and valuable. Does that tie in with the relationship building with clients too, or how does that tie in with relationship building and your clients?
Well, I kind of am immediately transported back to don't be order takers. But also you need to allow kind of participation on all ends. So with clients in mind, you want them to feel, again, included. You don't want to just say, here you go, and slide, the metaphorical notepad across the desk, tell them, here's your to-do list, now get to it. You want them to feel included as well, because they're going to get more excited about doing these certain experimental type of topics or type of recordings or self-reported. So if you give them a little wiggle room where you're brainstorming on internal calls, but you're then bringing it to the client, and then with the client, you're brainstorming with them too, they're going to get excited and you're going to be able to see that excitement on screen. And I think that's the thing, is you don't want them to just feel like, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do this because I was told to. No, they're going to get excited because they're also brainstorming. Their mind is going, a million miles a minute, thinking like, what could work for me? Oh man, I saw this too. I think that's a great idea. Like, they're going to get excited, and you will see that.
Absolutely, because it's a partnership, right? And we want to make sure that we're partnering. It's not order takers. That could be in both directions, right? It could be the clients just following orders for their content, what we need from them, or it could also be in the reverse, right? A client is dictating orders for the team to fulfill, but we're not having a mutual understanding of expertise, what does work, what we have seen work, and then the room to experiment and to approach things with fresh ideas and new outlook. Is that kind of what you're saying, thinking?
Absolutely. And again, it's like more of a team effort, not just internal team in the marketing industry or like the marketing team, but external with your client. It's a team collaborative. And I think that that's really important because, again, it will get the brainstorming wheels moving, getting them excited, and translate that on every video you see. So it doesn't look like they're just reading off a script because you want it to feel and come across natural.
That's a great point too. We want that authenticity in content. So what's a solution? You know, we were talking about trends earlier today as a small group, and one of the pitfalls of a trend is that it becomes so repetitive that it looks like everybody's just copycatting each other, right? And it loses the authenticity at times, or it can. So with that said, I could see how it's very easy to take a cookie cutter approach, which is very much what we're against. But what are the solutions to make sure we're not taking that templated cookie cutter? It's the same for every single client. How do you make sure that we are customizing and personalizing content for our clients so that they're getting the best from us? They're also being authentic to who they are for their audiences too.
I think making it their own is really important. So yeah, I saw this thing. I think it would work great for you. Take a look. But what I'm thinking is on this part, we do a little spin and then we have it in your office and you are in, this position and then you do this. So it's bringing in the trend, whether it be the audio file or it be the actual transition, or I know that we recently just talked about that too. It's like with certain events, certain movies, certain things coming up, we want to see what we can tie in and make sense for the client. Because it's not just, hey, do this. Even if it has no connection to the client, it's going to look silly. It's going to look like you're doing a cookie cutter thing, like just do it because it's funny or because it's a trend right now. We want to make sure that it makes sense for the client. So if the client is on board to do something funny and things like that, and the trend happens to be funny and comedic, we can work that in there. If they're a mortgage client, let's work in that mortgage topic into it. If they're a lawyer, let's get in their, office in front of, their desk that they are always filming behind, but let's get them in front and like have them do and participate in that trend. So it's more of how can we make this and personalize it for said client? And I think that's what's important. Don't just do it because it's funny or because it's trending or because the audio is hilarious or because the audio's, whatever is today. Like, I can't even think of something off the top of my head for what I saw today so far that's trending. But I would say as long as you can put that little the client twist of this makes sense for you because you can do X, Y, Z, which would loop in your niche. I think is really important.
It really strikes me that everything you're saying depends on clear, consistent communication, not just internally, but with clients too. So what are some ways that you can build that communication with the client to develop that relationship further?
Well, obviously the check-in calls that we have for our clients are really important so they get to see your face. We're very much a keep your camera on type agency. It's not, you only see the person's name across this black screen. That is not one inviting. So I think right off the bat, cameras on, get on the call, check back in on something that you maybe recently talked about with them prior. But I think also just as, frequent in the chat check-ins, loop back into, oh, it was just your birthday. How was your birthday? Like kind of things like that. So it's really important to kind of create that relationship where it's not just very A, B, C, have a great day, talk to you later, goodbye. Like we want to make sure that we know what is happening. And obviously it does equate to what the client is comfortable sharing. So obviously if it is very professional based, then, that's the approach that we're going to take with that client. But we always try to personalize things. We always try to bring things to them and like circle back on things that they shared with us. So again, oh, you just were on vacation. How was your vacation? Things that would make it more personable. And I think that's really important to build that because you're not just, again, happen to be working alongside them or with them, and you only get to talk maybe once a month, every couple months, and that's it. And there's no other communication in between. I think it's important to like build that relationship, showcase like, oh, you have kids, so do I. Oh, you have dogs, so do I. Like those little things matter, because then you have start building that relationship with those little tiny key aspects.
Absolutely. For anyone listening that lacks context, we use WhatsApp chats and have since the beginning for our clients. And I think that is a game changer because, like you were saying, we can have the direct communication, whether we're hopping on a meeting shortly or not. And so while we might be external and an agency working alongside your company, we want to feel as internal to your team as a company as possible. And WhatsApp allows us to do that. But I also what I'm hearing too, Danielle, approaching the chat and understanding that it is a conversation and it's not a bot chat. We might have general announcements to make that are a little bit more formal, but having that conversation, keeping it professional, of course, but allowing for those interactions to occur to develop the relationship further. And what you're saying is not only are we finding the personalization in content, but we want to find that personalization in our communication and conversation as well. So I love your take and you sharing that. When it comes to the team and team communication, you do a wonderful job of holding your team responsible for the work that needs to happen in a way that's very thorough and supportive. What are some aspects of team communication that are equally important? Because I can see relationships, of course, being necessary there too. So, how do you shift it, or is there a difference between how you talk to clients and the team?
Well, there is a little different, obviously, because what we like to do definitely is the one-on-ones every week. Normal conversation, obviously, in Slack, email, things like that. But we don't want it to just be business 100% of the time. We also want to check in like, oh, you were just off. How was your time off? Or, oh, just saw the announcement that it's been a full year here. Like, how are you so excited that you hit your mark? Like those little things of what that we can do on those check-ins. So I think it's really important to also make sure that we not only just business as usual, like make sure to go through, the routine of sweeping your Slack chats, sweeping, your to-do list, looking at your calendar, seeing what needs to be done, looking at the to-dos internally and things like that. But those one-on-ones are important too. So you can have that one-on-one FaceTime with the team, each individual team member. And I think that's really important because then again, it's not just business as usual. It's also, you can say like, oh, have a great weekend. Like, what are you up to? Like those, like just personalize it a little bit.
As you're talking, it strikes me, we have so much AI in the world, which is great. It helps create efficiencies and reduce the tediousness of tasks, but it can sometimes zap, or any kind of technology could zap the human connection. And because we are a fully remote agency and team, it's hard to establish those relationships. So everything you're saying makes me realize too just how important it is today in this world to take those moments to get to know people and to encourage, like you're saying, or celebrate them. And I know we do a fabulous job of that as a team because I see everybody supporting and encouraging each other. I know our clients don't always see that, but we have that same type of celebration and encouragement of clients too. So I definitely see you and the team carrying that across all communication with everybody. And I think that's so important. And I wanted to highlight that too. If you could share any advice or maybe something that you wish clients knew when working with us, something that you really want clients to keep in mind, what would that piece of advice or wish for them be, Danielle?
The first thing that immediately came to mind when you said that is letting them know that it's not just me. We're a huge team behind us. There's on the launch calls, on those strategy calls, you are told right off the bat that there is a team in the chats. There is a team behind you, and showcasing the team, because it's not just all for show. There is legitimately a team of people helping this client succeed, brainstorming sessions internally, bringing ideas to the table, things like that. So it's not just you have an account manager or you have a lead on your account and no one else is participating in the conversation. We want to make sure that our clients know there is a huge team of people behind them, and it's not just one person. And when I say huge, I do mean like a handful or even a handful and a half of people behind the scenes, but it's still larger than what you would get if you were to hire just one person to handle it all. Like you have the amazing editors, you have the amazing, support team that helps on the day-to-day with getting those videos scheduled, getting those videos proofed through, the copy created, those captions updated, things like that. You have people on the back end doing all of the, connections and making sure if things like, for instance, today, the crazy Microsoft down, we thankfully don't use Microsoft, so we don't have that issue right now. If there's any issues like a site went down, something like that, we have a team behind working to see if we can do anything to fix it, get things back on track, or give us updates as these things are getting fixed. Obviously by the bigger head honchos of like Meta, YouTube, etc. But I feel like it's just important to tell clients behind the scenes, like there's a bunch of cogs in the machine, if you will.
I think that's great, Danielle. And I love that you highlight that, because while not every team member can or is necessary to be on a client check-in call, that's why we have account managers and team leads to be that point person. We want to make sure clients know that there is a full team supporting them and working behind and in front of the scenes to make sure that we're helping them grow in whatever capacity, whatever is within our power. And even when things do go haywire, technology-wise, across the world, we still want to make sure that we're figuring out a solution for them. So thank you for being one of our Solutioneers, Danielle, and joining me for this call. I love all the work that you and the team do to make sure that our clients get the best that we can possibly offer. And that includes solutions for their business growth and their marketing growth too. So thank you for joining me, and thank you all for listening. So stay tuned for another episode coming up shortly. But for now, thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.